While the COVID-19 pandemic is officially over, we still don't know exactly the true scope of how much taxpayer fraud there was. Good morning, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. If you go to usspending.gov, it's a website that tracks federal spending and in particular looks at COVID-19 spending and the overall taxpayer resources that Congress approved. 4.6 trillion. That's trillion with a T. 4.5 total obligations. And you can even see broken down just exactly what states got what. And Illinois, according to this, got about $107 billion in both public and private sector spending from tax dollars. That's according to usaspending.gov. But if you go to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, they break down how much each state got. And they say Illinois got a good chunk. All right, we're talking total taxpayer spending per capita about let's see, $12,000. $783 per capita. And in total, they also say that Illinois got $162 billion. All right. So that's, again, is a per capita cost of $12,783 per capita. So what's going on with the spending now is efforts to try to claw back dollars that either aren't spent, but you also have dollars that were fraudulently spent. And we know that in Illinois, there have been stories of fraud with the unemployment system and elsewhere. Well, the state of Illinois did pass a measure with bipartisan support that allows for the statute of limitations to increase. And if you look, House Bill 3304, it extends the statute of limitations for the prosecution of any fraudulent activity connected to COVID-19 related programs to include the Paycheck Protection Program, COVID-19 Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and the Unemployment Benefit Program. Well, one of the sponsors of the bill was State Representative Dan Caulkins. I chatted with him earlier this week, and we talked about what exactly is going on here with this bill and just how severe was the fraud on Illinois taxpayers when it comes to the various programs that we know there was fraud involved.
Well, it was extremely problematic, and we still to this day don't know how badly Illinois got ripped off in our unemployment fraud. We also, the PPP fraud people were claiming. We saw stories about state employees that were filing claims while they were at work. It's a serious issue. It's a breach of trust. And, I think finally everyone in the General Assembly's had enough. And we want to get to the bottom of it.
And again, they passed that measure unanimously out of both chambers, and the bill is now on the governor's desk. But are those tools going to be sufficient enough to go after the fraud? Again, State Representative Dan Caulkins.
Well, they're only as efficient as the administration wants to use them. It doesn't, I guess it doesn't make anybody in the governor's administration actually do anything other than if you want to do something, we're giving you more tools. We haven't seen any willingness on the part of Governor Pritzker or the people in the Illinois Department of Employment Security to actually come out and go, this is how much we lost, or this is what happened. I think part of it is a threat of the federal government now wanting to claw back some of this money for that was fraudulently dispersed. But we've got a governor has to be willing to go after the fraudsters. We've given him the tools to do it. Let's see if he's willing to actually take action.
So we know that audits of the Illinois Department of Employment Security have shown at least $2 billion worth of fraud. Altogether, I want to say the state spent around $23+ billion on unemployment. So if you're talking about what's known of $2 billion of fraud, that's just what's known. We don't know the full scope yet. Because the state says, well, that was in the federal program of fraud. Well, IDES has yet to fully reveal just how much fraud there was in other unemployment programs, let alone the fraud that there may be in the Paycheck Protection Program and other grant dollars that went out using your tax funds. So Caulkins talks about the true scope and how do we get to the bottom of this?
Well, first of all, we know that there was fraud. We know that there was people and foreign entities, in some cases, claiming unemployment benefits here in Illinois, and we saw it from the beginning. And the issue really was that the people that deserved it, the people that were unemployed, were not able to get their claims paid. But for some miraculous reason, all of these fraudulent claims got processed. And we think it's hundreds of millions of dollars of fraudulent claims. So, this is a huge problem. I guess the reason that it's a huge problem, Greg, is that the employers have to restock this unemployment fund. Your taxes, the employment tax, the unemployment fund is paid by an employer. And so when we have a deficit in our fund that raises the insurance premiums on our employers, this isn't right. And I think the General Assembly recognizes this and is trying to give the governor some power to go back and reclaim this money if they can find the perpetrators.
So again, that's State Representative Dan Caulkins talking about the scope that we still don't know of how much fraud there was. But if you go back to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation's website, you can break down the numbers for Illinois, and the total amount spent on the unemployment programs was around $25.9 billion. Now, how much of that's fraud? Not sure. The Paycheck Protection Program cost Illinois taxpayers $38.1 billion. Among other COVID-19 spending, the state and local recovery funds totaled $14 billion. Altogether, public and private sectors in Illinois getting over $160 billion during the COVID pandemic. How much of that was fraud? How much of that was necessary? How much was spent on pavements? That's not necessarily COVID related, but a lot of these dollars are going to various projects. But what else should taxpayers need to know about this issue? State Representative Dan Caulkins laying out another facet of the questions that still remain.
I'd like to know, I think it's important. The state of Illinois hired some outside firm to come in and run this program because they weren't prepared or capable of doing it. Said this at the very beginning. The governor knew what was going to happen. He didn't just all of a sudden decide to shut down businesses. I'm sure there was a lot of pre-planning and work done, and yet he failed to properly prepare IDES for the flood of claims. I think that needs to be looked at as well. What really happened and why were we unprepared? Why did we have to go hire an outside firm, and how much money did we actually pay them? And so I think another question is, were they involved in any of this fraud? Any of the people, these contractors, were they willing accomplices in dispersing this money fraudulently?
Now, I did some digging around the comptroller's website where you can see how much money's being spent on various contracts. And to the issue of the contracts for the Illinois Department of Employment Security, when the governor issued that stay-at-home order, essentially picking which businesses could stay open and which businesses should close to try to, quote, slow the spread of COVID, the problems with IDES arose. And in April that year of 2020, the state contracted with Deloitte Consulting to set up a new system for gig workers and similar unemployment claims for a total of $12.6 million. Now, since then, the comptroller's website shows that the total taxpayer cost for all IDES contracts with Deloitte, $134.3 million. And they continue that contract tens of millions of dollars. Total $134.3 million. So will this statute of limitations increase allow for some of those fraudulent dollars to be recaptured and to hold people accountable? Has yet to be seen, but we'll obviously be watching that closely.